I had always considered myself a typical guy living a typical life. I married Sarah, my college sweetheart, and we settled into a comfortable suburban routine. We bought a cozy little house in Oakwood, a place bustling with family-friendly activities. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. We had our circle of friends, weekend barbecues, and the occasional movie night. But under that seemingly idyllic veneer, trouble was brewing and I was too blind to see it. It started small. I noticed Sarah, once so attentive and loving, began to change. Her laughter became less frequent, and our conversations felt forced, like we were actors reciting lines instead of a couple sharing thoughts. I told myself it was just the stress of her new job as a marketing manager. After all, work can take a toll on anyone. But as weeks turned into months, the late nights at the office became an all too frequent excuse. I should have seen the signs. The spontaneous trips with her so-called work buddies, the new outfits that cost more than our monthly grocery bill, and the way she seemed to prioritize her phone over me, always quick to hide the screen whenever I walked by. Then one fateful Friday evening, I was flipping through her old photographs while looking for a framed picture of us to hang in the living room. I stumbled across an album titled Memories. Curiosity got the better of me and I opened it. To my shock, the album was filled with pictures of Sarah, not just with friends, but with a man I didn't recognize. They were smiling, laughing, and even sharing what appeared to be intimate moments. My heart raced as I scanned the captions. Best weekend ever. And can't wait to do this again. Struck me like a punch to the gut. My mind raced with questions. Who was this guy? What did he mean to Sarah? I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as realization hit. There was an affair. I confronted the gut-wrenching truth. The woman I loved so dearly was cheating on me. The feeling of betrayal stabbed deeper than any physical pain I had ever experienced. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. The following day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I reached out to one of her close friends, Jenna, under the guise of wanting to plan a surprise dinner for Sarah's birthday. I casually asked if she had heard about any new developments in Sarah's life. Jenna hesitated before letting slip that Sarah had been spending a lot of time with a guy named Mike. My heart sank. I didn't need to hear more. It was enough to confirm my suspicions. That evening, I prepared for a confrontation that would change everything. I waited for Sarah to come home, my heart thudding in my chest. When she finally walked through the door, that same smile I once adored felt like a dagger. I could hardly get the words out, but I managed to say, "We need to talk." Her demeanor shifted instantly. She could sense the tension in my tone. I demanded to know who Mike was, why she had been lying, and why our relationship felt like it was crashing down. I could see her scrambling for words, the panic in her eyes betraying her facade. "Mike, he's just a friend from work. You're overreacting," she exclaimed, her voice dripping with irritation. The lies rolled off her tongue effortlessly, and I could feel the anger bubbling inside me. It was maddening to hear her dismiss my feelings, yet this was just the beginning of a spiraling confrontation that would leave both of us reeling. As the argument unfolded, I felt a mix of emotions crashing over me: rage, betrayal, and a heart-wrenching sadness that nearly brought me to my knees. Each lie she told felt like a fresh wound, and I was left trying to make sense of the chaos that had engulfed my life. I demanded to know why she didn't just end things with me if she felt it was so bad, but all I got were excuses, followed by more lies. This wasn't just a fight. It was a complete unraveling of everything I thought we had built together. As the words between us turned from heated accusations to desperate pleas, I realized that this moment was just the start of a turbulent journey that would test my very core. In the aftermath of our confrontation, I felt a mix of anger and devastation. I couldn't believe the woman I had loved so deeply could betray me in such a cruel way. The betrayal gnawed at my insides, leaving me with a hollow ache I couldn't shake. I spent the whole night awake, replaying our life together and trying to decipher where things had gone wrong. I knew I had a decision to make. I could either wallow in self-pity or decide how I wanted to move forward. One thing was certain: I wouldn't just stand by and let her walk all over me. I needed to reclaim my power, and that meant plotting a course for revenge that would shake her world to its core. This was just the beginning of what felt like an emotional roller coaster, a journey that would take me down a dark path filled with intrigue and a desire for retribution. I had to ask myself, how far was I willing to go to reclaim my life? And what did I want from this betrayal? As the sun rose the next morning, illuminating the remnants of my shattered dreams, I found myself consumed with the need to set Sarah's world on fire, figuratively, of course. After that tumultuous confrontation with Sarah, my mind spun with a whirlwind of emotions. I was angry, betrayed, and determined to figure out how to get my life back on track. The sense of loss felt palpable, and the weight of all her lies pressed heavily on my chest. I couldn't just let her go unpunished for the pain she had caused me. I needed a plan, something clever, something that would make her feel the sting of betrayal in a way that mirrored my own pain. I spent the next few days contemplating my options while trying to maintain a facade of normalcy in front of Sarah. I found myself going through the motions, but every moment felt like an act, like I was playing a role in a play where I had forgotten my lines. I even smiled at her, engaged in conversations that felt empty, all while my mind was racing with thoughts of revenge. I started by gathering information. I reached out to Jenna again, pretending to want to clear the air about my earlier questions. I feigned ignorance about Sarah's affair, playing the part of the unsuspecting husband while trying to get the inside scoop. Jenna, perhaps feeling guilty or wanting to help, opened up to me more than I expected. She mentioned how Sarah had been different lately, more distant, and a little too excited about her new friends. That's when I learned that Mike wasn't just a friend. He was her office crush, someone who had been vying for her attention for months. Armed with this knowledge, I began to plot my revenge. The first step was to create a scenario that would catch Sarah off guard. I wanted her to feel the same kind of betrayal and confusion that I had felt. I decided I would start with subtlety, allowing her to think that I was still oblivious to her lies, while I slowly began to weave my own web of deception. I created a fake dating profile on a popular app under a name that I had used in college, something she wouldn't easily recognize. I crafted a persona of a charming and successful guy, complete with a few carefully selected photos from years ago that made me look desirable. The plan was simple. I would lure Sarah into a false sense of security, and when the time was right, I would let her know what I had discovered. The first few days of creating this alter ego were exciting yet nerve-wracking. I found myself engaging in conversations with women, taking care to keep my identity hidden. I became the man who was everything she wanted: funny, adventurous, and spontaneous. I would send her messages and memes that I knew she'd appreciate, all while keeping my true intentions hidden. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on Sarah's interactions with Mike, following her movements like a hawk. I noticed them chatting more during work hours, sneaking glances at each other over lunch, and the way her face lit up when someone mentioned his name. Each time I saw that spark she used to reserve for me, the anger inside me intensified, fueling my desire for revenge. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I returned home to find Sarah in the living room, dressed up and ready to head out. "Going out with the girls?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Yeah, just a little night out with some friends from work," she replied, her voice light, but I could see a flicker of guilt in her eyes. "You don't mind, do you?" "Of course not, have fun," I said, masking my true feelings behind a smile. I could feel my heart racing as I watched her leave, the air thick with unspoken tension. Little did she know that while she was out with her friends, I was putting my plan into action. That night, I connected with Sarah on the dating app I had created. I crafted a message that hinted at my interest in meeting up. "Hey, I know this sounds weird, but I think we'd really hit it off. Want to grab a drink sometime?" It felt exhilarating, and I reminded myself constantly of her betrayal as I pressed send. The next day, I was hit with a mixture of anxiety and excitement. I went back to work and the hours dragged on like an eternity. But finally, the notification popped up, a message from my fake profile, and I couldn't help but smile. She had responded with enthusiasm, suggesting a time and place to meet. I had successfully baited her into my trap. As I prepared for the planned meeting that upcoming weekend, I wrestled with my own moral compass. Was I really willing to go through with this, to set a trap for my own wife? But every time I thought about her laughter with Mike, the way she had dismissed my feelings, I pushed those doubts aside. I was not just reclaiming my power, I was setting the stage for an emotional reckoning. Saturday arrived, and I donned a carefully curated outfit that would make me look good without giving away too much. I wanted to appear as an enticing stranger, someone who could sweep her off her feet. I arrived at the cafe a little early and my heart raced in anticipation. I scanned the space, waiting for her to walk in, and when she did, she looked stunning. She was dressed to impress, her eyes sparkling with excitement. At that moment, I realized how deep her betrayal had cut me. I steeled myself, reminding myself that this wasn't just for revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity. As she approached me, I couldn't help but notice the way her smile lit up the room. But deep down, I knew it was all a lie, just like the facade she had created in our marriage. When she sat down, we exchanged pleasantries, and I played my role perfectly. The thrill of the moment sent shivers down my spine. I engaged her in conversation, making sure to mirror the intrigue and fascination she once had for me. And while inside, I felt a tempest of emotions. I maintained an exterior of calm confidence. I wanted to see how long she would continue to play along, how far she would take the charade, and what her reaction would be when the truth finally unfolded. As the evening progressed, I felt adrenaline rushing through my veins. I was on the brink of a revelation that would not only expose her deceit, but also redefine the boundaries of our relationship. Little did Sarah know I was about to set her world on fire, and there would be no going back from this point on. As I settled into the booth, the cafe bustling with life around us, I tried to focus on the moment. Sarah, seated across from me, looked so vibrant and alive. Her laughter echoed through the air, and for a fleeting second it felt like old times, like we could go back to the way things were before everything fell apart. But deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't just a casual meeting. It was a game of cat and mouse, and I was determined to be the one holding the strings. Our conversation flowed easily. I played my part well, asking her about her life, and her interests. I even echoed some of the things I knew she loved, like that hiking trip we had taken years ago. Every laugh and shared memory felt like salt in the wound, a reminder of everything I had lost. Yet as we chatted, I could see her openness and excitement. Maybe she was letting her guard down, or perhaps she thought she was simply flirting with a stranger. "Tell me more about your friends from work," I prompted, casually leaning in. "You mentioned going out with them a lot." "Oh, you wouldn't believe the fun we have," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "There's Mike, of course. He's great, really fun to hang out with. We've been doing team-building exercises together and it gets a bit competitive." The name struck me like a bell tolling in a dark chapel. She had said his name so effortlessly, so casually, as if she were talking about the weather. My heart raced as I held back the urge to confront her right then and there. Instead, I leaned back, pretending to be intrigued. "Sounds like a blast, so just friends then." She laughed again, but this time the sound felt hollow. "Just friends, I promise. You know how it is. Sometimes you just click with someone at work." I nodded, suppressing a smirk. Oh, how I wanted to scream at her, to reveal my true identity and watch her face twist in horror at the betrayal I had orchestrated. But I needed to wait for the right moment, the perfect opportunity to let the truth crash down like a wave. As the evening wore on, I could tell she was enjoying our time together. She leaned in closer, her laughter ringing out louder, and I could see the spark returning in her eyes, the same spark she had lost in our marriage. It made my gut churn. I wanted to shake her and tell her that this was all a lie, a dark joke at her expense. But I maintained my composure, letting the moment play out. Finally, it was time to drop the bomb. I had to do it in a way that would maximize the impact, to truly make her feel the weight of her actions. I excused myself to the restroom, taking a moment to gather my thoughts and prepare myself for what I was about to do. When I returned, I took a deep breath, adopting a serious expression. "You know, Sarah, I've been thinking a lot about relationships, trust, and how fragile they can be." Her brow furrowed in confusion, and for a moment I saw a flicker of concern cross her face. "What do you mean?" I leaned in closer, lowering my voice as if sharing a secret. "I mean, it's hard to stay connected when one person is living a double life, don't you think?" The color drained from her face and her mouth opened slightly, as if trying to process what I was saying. "What are you talking about?" I couldn't help but let a smirk slip. "Oh, come on, Sarah. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the changes in our intimate life, it all adds up. You thought I was completely in the dark about your little affair with Mike, didn't you?" Her reaction was instantaneous. She recoiled as if slapped, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "What? How do you even know about him?" Panic laced her voice, and I could see her scrambling to cover her tracks, the facade she had built crumbling before my eyes. "Jenna let it slip. She was too much of a friend to keep your secret," I replied, my tone steady and calm. "I know everything, Sarah. The lies, the deceit, it all makes sense now. But here's the kicker, I didn't just come here to expose you. I wanted to see how deep your betrayal ran." She looked utterly lost, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "No, no, you've got it all wrong. It's not what you think. Mike and I were just friends." "Just friends," I echoed mockingly. "And yet here we are having dinner while I pretend to be someone else. Doesn't that seem a bit disingenuous?" Her expression shifted from panic to anger. "You've got some nerve, you know that. Spying on me, using a fake profile. What kind of person does that?" I leaned back, relishing the moment. "The kind of person who won't sit idly by while his wife runs around with another man. It's a new world, Sarah. You taught me that." The cafe was alive with chatter and laughter, yet our table felt like a private arena. I could sense the eyes of nearby patrons drifting our way, but I didn't care. This was my moment of truth. "Why didn't you just tell me you were unhappy? Why go behind my back?" I asked, my voice rising slightly with emotion. "Because I thought you wouldn't understand. You've been so wrapped up in your own world." She shot back, her voice rising to match my own. "This is my life too." "Your life? At what cost? You're destroying our marriage, Sarah. You think running around with Mike is going to fix what's wrong between us. So what's next? Are you going to tell me it was a mistake?" Her silence spoke volumes, and it felt like a weight had been lifted, leaving the air thick with tension. I had finally forced her to confront the reality of her actions. The guilt I had seen in her eyes was now blended with a flicker of defiance. She started, but the words hung in the air, unspoken and raw. "I deserve better than this," I said quietly, my voice firm but devoid of the anger I had felt earlier. "You have to make a choice, Sarah. Either you want to salvage what's left of us, or you can continue chasing some fantasy." Her gaze flickered as she processed my words. "You don't understand how complicated it is," she finally said, her voice trembling. "I thought I needed more excitement, more passion. I didn't want to hurt you." "Excitement, passion," I scoffed, shaking my head. "You think this is what passion looks like? Sneaking around in the shadows? You think Mike is going to give you a fairy tale?" A moment of silence passed between us, thick with uncertainty. I had thrown her world into chaos, and it felt satisfying, but the truth was I still loved her. I wanted her to see the damage she had caused, to feel the consequences of her choices. "I can't tell you what to do," I continued, keeping my voice steady. "But this isn't love, and it's certainly not what we had. If you can't choose me, then I will have to choose for both of us." And just like that, I realized I was at a crossroads. I had set her world ablaze figuratively, and now the question lingered. Would she choose to extinguish the flames or let them consume everything we had built? The silence stretched between us like an unyielding chasm, the weight of our conversation pressing down on the air around us. I could see the gears turning in Sarah's mind as she tried to grasp the enormity of the situation. I had pulled back the curtain on her duplicity, and now she stood exposed, grappling with the reality that her actions had consequences. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, tinged with desperation. "I want you to choose, Sarah. I want you to decide if this life we built together is worth fighting for, or if you want to throw it all away for a fleeting thrill," I said firmly, feeling the intensity of the moment. In that heartbeat, I realized that my own heart was aching, not just from betrayal, but from the fear of losing her forever. She looked down, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of the tablecloth. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she confessed, her voice trembling. I just wanted to feel alive again. I thought I could do it without hurting you. By lying to me, by cheating on me, I shot back, unable to suppress the anger that flared in my chest. You think that's how you find passion? By destroying the one person who has always been in your corner. You didn't just betray me, you betrayed everything we stood for. The heat of the moment surged, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. Part of me wanted to reach across the table to comfort her, to tell her that I understood her struggles. But a larger part of me felt that this was a moment for her to confront the truth head-on. If I let her off the hook now, all my efforts would be in vain. I thought you would never find out, she said, her voice breaking. I thought I could have my fun and come back to you. I didn't want to lose you, she trailed off, unable to finish her sentence, the weight of her own dishonesty hanging heavily in the air. Sarah, this isn't just a mistake you can sweep under the rug. This is a choice you made. You intentionally sought out that excitement instead of talking to me about what you needed. I replied, my voice steady but laced with pain. You made a choice to betray my trust, and now we have to face the fallout together. She looked up at me, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of realization in her eyes. You're right, she admitted, her voice filled with remorse. I let my fears and desires cloud my judgment. I thought I could have it all without consequences. Now you have to choose, I repeated, my tone softening. You can either fight for us, for the life we built, or you can walk away and take your chances with Mike. But know that if you choose him, it will shatter what we've worked so hard to create. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she grappled with the enormity of her decision. I don't want to lose you, she said, her voice breaking. But I've made such a huge mess of everything. How can we fix this? My heart softened at her vulnerability, but I knew it couldn't be an easy fix. Trust was like glass. Once shattered, it was nearly impossible to restore to its original form. It's going to take time, Sarah. It's going to take work. We'd have to be honest with each other, rebuild from the ground up. But I need to know you're committed to making it right. She nodded, wiping her tears away with the back of her hand. I'm willing to try. I don't want to lose you. I promise I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. I'm so sorry for what I did. Sorry isn't enough, but I appreciate that you're willing to fight for us, I said, feeling a flicker of hope ignite within me. But understand that I won't tolerate any more lies. If you're sincere, we'll need to have some difficult conversations and set new boundaries moving forward. Our conversation turned into a long, heartfelt discussion about our relationship, our needs, and the challenges we had faced. We unpacked so many unspoken issues that had lingered beneath the surface for too long. I explained how I had felt neglected and unappreciated, and she shared her fears and desires, the restlessness that had led her to seek attention elsewhere. As the night wore on, I felt a subtle shift in our dynamic. It became clear that we both were ready to make changes, to invest time and effort into healing our relationship. However, the lingering shadow of her betrayal still loomed over us like a dark cloud, serving as a constant reminder of the work ahead. In a way, the confrontation had pulled back the curtain on our lives, exposing the flaws we had ignored for too long. It became apparent that while Sarah had strayed, the cracks in our marriage were deeper than I had realized. We had both played a role in our disconnect, and we had to acknowledge that healing would take more than just apologies. Let's take it one day at a time, I suggested as we prepared to leave the cafe. We have a long road ahead, but if we're both willing to put in the work, we might just come out stronger on the other side. As we stepped out into the cool night air, I felt an unfamiliar sense of determination. Though our relationship had been shaken to its core, I knew that our love was worth fighting for. As we walked side by side, I realized that this would be a pivotal moment in our lives, one that could either lead to our demise or serve as a catalyst for growth. I had set her world on fire, but the flames of our confrontation had illuminated a path toward healing, a path that required honesty, vulnerability, and a commitment to rediscovery. Now we stood at the crossroads, ready to navigate the uncertain terrain ahead. But just as I thought we were on the right track, a sudden text notification broke the moment. My heart sank as I realized it was a message from my fake profile. I hadn't anticipated this distraction, but the timing felt too uncanny to ignore. I glanced at Sarah, who was looking away, her mind still swirling from our conversation. As I opened the message, my fingers trembled. It was a simple line. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Let's have some fun." The implications hit me like a freight train. Sarah, after everything, was still entangled with Mike, and my heart raced as I processed the moment. This was not just a second chance. It was a test of everything we had just discussed. Would she choose him again? Would she throw away the potential of a rekindled love for a fleeting thrill? In that instant, I knew the stakes had just risen higher. I had to confront her again, but this time, the truth would come crashing down like a storm, and everything we had just built could shatter anew. Would she embrace this chance for redemption, or would she succumb to the temptation that had nearly destroyed us? The answer hung in the air, and the next move would define our journey forever. I stood there, the phone buzzing softly in my hand, as I processed the message that had just interrupted what felt like a fragile truce. It was a simple text, yet it felt like a dagger aimed right at my heart. The reality of Sarah's betrayal loomed over me once more, and I could feel a rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. I was caught between wanting to confront her and the fierce desire to keep my composure after our long and emotional conversation. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady but laced with undertones of uncertainty. She turned to me, her expression curious. "We need to talk again." Her brow furrowed, and I could see the flicker of anxiety in her eyes. "What is it?" she asked, her tone shifting from hopeful to wary. I took a deep breath, deciding to lay everything bare. "I just got a message from that dating profile I created, the person I've been pretending to be. It's someone who wants to meet up tonight. It's been interesting, to say the least." Her eyes widened, and I could practically see the wheels turning in her head as she registered my words. "Wait, you're still talking to this person, after everything we just discussed?" she replied, her voice rising slightly in disbelief. I nodded, feeling the weight of my decision bearing down on me. "Yes, but it's not just that. I saw the name of the person who sent the message. It's Mike, your so-called friend from work, the guy you've been seeing behind my back." The silence that followed felt electric. I watched as her cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and anger. "What? How could—" "Don't even try to deny it," I interrupted, my patience wavering. "I didn't want to believe it at first, but it's all right there. You can't keep pretending that everything's fine between us while you're still entangled with him." She looked away, her face a mask of frustration and guilt. "I thought I could handle it. I thought I could make things right with us and still have that excitement with Mike. I didn't want to let him go either. It just happened, okay? Just happened." I shot back, my voice rising again. "You can't just let it happen when you're married. You made a choice to betray me, and now you're making another choice by keeping him in your life even after everything we've talked about." "That was before," she exclaimed, her voice cracking. "This is different. We were talking about trying to fix things. I didn't think it would be this complicated. I didn't realize how much I wanted you to fight for me." Fighting for her. I had just pulled back the curtain on our tumultuous relationship, and now she wanted me to fight even harder. It felt like a cruel joke. "You think I don't want to fight for us, after everything I've done to confront this situation? But how can I fight when you're still caught up in this affair?" The tension crackled in the air between us. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her understand the gravity of her actions. Yet I was reminded of our earlier conversations, the budding hope that perhaps we could work through this together. "But I don't want to lose you," she said, her voice softening again. "I realize now that I've made a huge mistake, but I'm scared to lose everything we've built. Mike, he was just an escape. I thought I could have both." "An escape?" I echoed, feeling the anger boil within me again. "So you admit it. You were looking for an escape instead of working on us. You were too afraid to face the problems we had, and now you want me to wait while you figure things out. Please don't twist my words," she pleaded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to feel alive, to feel desired again, but I don't want to throw away my life with you. I love you." The love she professed felt like a bitter pill to swallow. Did she truly love me, or was this just another way to deflect from the choices she had made? "It's hard to believe that when you've been so willing to throw it all away, Sarah," I said, my voice low and firm. "You've got to decide what you truly want, because right now it seems like you want the best of both worlds." "I don't," she cried, her voice breaking. I want us. I'll end things with Mike, I swear. Just give me a chance to make it right." Her desperation tugged at my heartstrings, but I felt a mix of disbelief and anger churning within me. Words aren't enough anymore. You need to take action, and it needs to be now. If you want to make this right, you have to cut ties with him completely. No more texts, no more meetings. She paused, her expression shifting as she processed my ultimatum. "You're asking a lot of me," she murmured, her gaze dropping to the floor. "What if he doesn't take it well? What if this is just the start of another cycle? That's a risk you'll have to take," I replied, my voice steady. "You can't keep living in the shadows of your actions. If you want to be with me, it starts with full transparency. This isn't just about me, it's about you realizing what you truly want." Sarah looked crushed, but in the depths of her eyes I saw a flicker of determination. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll tell him it's over. I'll cut all ties. I don't want to lose you. I'll prove it." "Prove it," I echoed, unsure whether her words would hold any weight this time. "We can't go back to the way things were. We need to build something new together, and that starts with you cutting him out of your life completely." "I understand," she said, her voice shaking. "I'll text him right now." Watching her pull out her phone, I could feel the tension in the air shift. It felt surreal. Here was the moment of truth, where she would either choose me or let her desires lead her astray once again. My heart raced as she typed, each keystroke resonating like a countdown to our future. After a few moments, she hit send and looked up at me, her face a mixture of fear and hope. "It's done," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've told him it's over." In that instant, I could see the relief wash over her, but I also felt the unease twist within me. Would this be enough? Could we truly start anew after everything that had transpired? "I hope you mean it, Sarah," I said, searching her eyes for sincerity. "Because I'm willing to fight for us, but I need to know you're committed too. No more lies, no more running. We need to be a team from here on out." I could see the weight of her choices weighing heavily on her shoulders, and I knew that this was a turning point for both of us. We stood at the precipice of our relationship, ready to either rebuild or watch it crumble once more. "I promise," she said, a sense of determination flickering in her eyes. "I'm ready to do this. I'll do whatever it takes." As we left the cafe, I felt a cautious sense of hope stirring within me. Perhaps this was the moment where we could begin to heal, where love could triumph over betrayal. But I also knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges, and it would take more than just promises to mend the fractures in our marriage. Little did I know, there was one more surprise waiting just around the corner that would test us both beyond anything we had faced thus far. And while we had both taken steps toward healing, the next twist in our story was about to unfold in ways neither of us could have anticipated. As we stepped out of the cafe, a cool breeze met us, bringing a hint of freshness to the tense atmosphere. I felt a cautious optimism simmering beneath the surface. It could be the start of a new chapter for us, one filled with the potential for healing and rebuilding. But the nagging doubt lingered in the back of my mind. Would Sarah truly follow through on her promise to cut ties with Mike? Our drive home was filled with an anxious silence. I could sense that Sarah was lost in her thoughts, and I found myself grappling with my own fears. The emotional roller coaster we had just endured had left me exhausted, but I remained determined to keep the lines of communication open. The stakes were too high for us to slip back into old patterns. When we arrived at home, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. I wanted to foster an environment where we could discuss our feelings, our fears, and our hopes for the future. As I poured us 2 glasses of wine, I turned to Sarah, who was staring out the window, a look of uncertainty etched on her face. "Hey," I said gently, trying to break through the tension. "Let's sit down together. We need to talk about what this means for us moving forward." We settled onto the couch, and I could see the apprehension in her eyes. "I know it's a lot to process," I began, "but I want us to be honest about how we feel. We've both been hurt, and we need to understand where we stand." "I'm scared," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I've been so selfish, and I don't want to hurt you again, but I want to make this right. I really do." "I'm scared too," I admitted. "I don't want to fall back into old habits or blind spots. It's going to take time and effort for both of us. We can't rush the healing process, but we must commit to being vulnerable and real with each other from this point on. She nodded, her eyes welling up with tears once more. I promise I'll do everything I can to earn back your trust. I know I've messed up, but I want to fight for us. I don't want to throw it all away for something that was never real. I reach for her hand, holding it tightly in mine. We're in this together, and I'm willing to fight alongside you. But we have to set clear boundaries, and that means no contact with Mike. If you truly want to move forward, we can't allow any lingering ties to pull us back. It was in that moment that I felt an unexpected wave of clarity wash over me. I realized that while the hurt was deep, there was still a flicker of love between us, and that love was worth fighting for. So long as we remained open and honest, we could navigate the murky waters ahead. The next week unfolded with a mixture of tension and healing. Sarah kept her word, cutting off all communication with Mike. Each day was a small victory, an extra moment of laughter, a shared meal, or a simple touch that reminded us both of the love we still had. We began to explore new hobbies together, rekindling the passion that had dimmed over time. We took walks, attended a pottery class, and even started a Netflix binge of old shows we used to love. Yet the road to recovery was not without its bumps. There were times when doubts crept back in and I would catch myself second-guessing her sincerity. On one occasion, I found her staring at her phone, and in a fit of insecurity, I snapped, "Is Mike messaging you again?" She turned to me, her expression filled with hurt. "No, I promise I'm not. I'm just trying to stay connected with friends, to build a new life with you." In that moment, I realized that my own doubts could become a barrier to our healing if I wasn't careful. I needed to trust her, just as she had to trust me to be receptive to her efforts. As the weeks passed, we began to rebuild our foundation. We had tough conversations about our individual needs and how we could support each other moving forward. I started to see the changes in Sarah, the way she committed herself to being present and engaged. She was determined to prove that she could be the partner I deserved. Then came the day when I received an unexpected text from Jenna, Sarah's friend. It was a simple message suggesting we all hang out together for drinks. My first instinct was to hesitate. I had spent so long grappling with betrayal that the thought of mixing with Sarah's circle felt daunting. But as the date approached, I realized this could be an opportunity, a chance for me to see how Sarah interacted with her friends and confirm that she had truly cut Mike out of her life. So, I reluctantly agreed. The night was a whirlwind of laughter and conversation. I found myself feeling comfortable in the presence of Jenna and a few of Sarah's other friends. They were supportive and encouraging, and I could see how much they cared about Sarah. During the evening, Sarah excused herself to head to the restroom, leaving me alone with Jenna for a moment. "Hey, I just wanted to say how proud I am of Sarah," Jenna said, her eyes sincere. "She's really trying to make things work. I think she truly loves you." "Thanks, Jenna. I hope you're right," I replied, feeling a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "It's still a fragile situation and I'm trying to be cautious." "I understand. Just know that she's been talking about you a lot lately, and she genuinely wants to make things right. She slipped up, but I think she's learned from it." As the conversation continued, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and trust would take time to rebuild, but I felt that spark of love we'd once shared beginning to flicker back to life. As the evening came to an end, I felt grateful for the chance to reconnect with Sarah and her friends. I watched her as she laughed and chatted with Jenna, a radiant smile on her face. It felt like I was seeing the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago, and I was reminded of why I had chosen to fight for this relationship. When the night finally came to a close, I walked Sarah to the car, feeling a sense of contentment wash over me. "I had a great time tonight," I said softly, taking her hand as we got into the car. "Thank you for being so open with me. It means a lot." She smiled back, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. "I'm just glad we're working on things together. I don't want to lose you, and I'll do whatever it takes to prove that to you." As we drove home, I felt a sense of warmth enveloping us. It was a reminder that while our journey had taken a tumultuous turn, we were still on the same path together. Together, we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Despite the complexities of our past, I couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope for the future. We had both learned valuable lessons about trust, vulnerability, and the importance of open communication. That night, as we laid in bed, I held her close, cherishing the connection we were beginning to rebuild. I realized that love wasn't just about the good times. It was about facing the storms together and emerging stronger on the other side. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I believed we could navigate it, hand in hand, ready to face whatever life threw our way. Through the flames of betrayal, we had found a path to healing, and the fire that once threatened to consume us had transformed into a light guiding us forward. In that moment, I knew we weren't just surviving, we were choosing to thrive. And that made all the difference.